Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner, and today I am with real estate agents Stephanie Ellis and Marc Bennett, who have done the last 3 years over $120 million in real estate sales. And if you're a small business owner or a martial arts school owner and you want to accelerate your cash from profits from your business without, maybe opening up more doing better business in your location, and you just want to take your profits and grow it, this is going to be the podcast for you, because you're going to learn how to find the right properties, how to find the right agents, and how to actually grow your profits from your business. So Steph and Marc, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's very
Thanks for having me, bro.
So I know Marc and Steph both personally from the Philadelphia area. So if you listen to this today and you're interested in investing in property, you can reach out to them directly or reach out to me and I'll refer you. So I know working in real estate is, obviously a lot of people do it, right? There's a lot of agents, and most people, they just diddly daddle, right? They do maybe a couple deals for family members, but you guys obviously take it as obviously your career, but you guys are both very motivated, both hustlers in my
Full
mind.
time.
Hell yeah.
So there's obviously you're in the people business, right? And before we started today's podcast, you were telling me about the story that you wanted to tell about rats, and I was like, wait, be quiet. I want to hear it on audio. So tell me about this rat story that we've been holding on to.
Well, I also have a story about a naked guy named Joe.
Love it.
And walking in on some people having sex.
Okay.
You really want to hear the rat story?
Are these real estate stories?
They're
your personal
legit
dating?
real estate stories.
Okay.
Because I think
We get some horror stories.
let's be clear, right? Investing in real estate is so fun, and all these shows, they make it sound so sexy.
Yeah.
And it's a hustle. It's hard work. And
Yeah.
you also really need to align yourself with someone that you really trust is going to get you not just into a deal that's going to make sense for you, but that gets you to your goals. That's the first step for all of this. But the rat story, which admittedly might not land as well, Marc was here for this. And
My first time to real estate.
I know. I was mentoring Marc. And these properties actually were all in Point Breeze.
Okay.
I was selling them for an awesome client of mine who really did very well with these. Moral of the story is this was a very, very successful business venture for him. He had these properties. There were 4 of them. And one of them, as part of my due diligence, I am hustling. I'm trying to figure out who's going to buy this property. So I start kind of shopping it off market.
Wait, so he has 4 properties. That's his business, or he has another business?
He has another business. He's a lawyer.
Okay, got it. So this is what he does with his profits from
Correct.
his business.
Correct.
Okay, from
Yep.
being an attorney.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, absolutely. It was a good way for him it was a smart strategic move for tax strategy and for just general income purposes. Ooh, sorry. And so anyway, I'm showing Marc this house, and I'm like, it needs a little work. Not too crazy. And there are 2 people living in here. I'm going to give very limited detail. We're walking through the house.
Wait, why limited detail? I want to hear all the nitty-gritty. Don't hold on
I
to
don't
any
want to offend
details.
anybody.
No, it doesn't
Just some
matter.
smelly, hairy girls.
Okay, smelly
There
hairy
were
girls.
there were definitely some gals in there that I was.
They were free-spirited.
They were very
free-spirited.
free-spirited. There was a lot of accoutrement, a lot of I don't know. There was just a lot of things in there that were not for my taste, and I was like, how the hell am I going to show this house, right?
Oh my God.
And so I'm walking around, I'm showing Marc, and we get into the bedroom, and I'm like, holy fuck! There's a whole cage of rats in these they were nice, sweet girls. I'm like, why the hell do you guys have rats in your house? Along with a couple of other things that were a little interesting. Yes, Marc, any comments to this?
You hit it spot on.
So wait, were they harvesting rats? What was
I
happening?
don't
Was it
know.
pet
I
rats?
just kind of freaked out and got
Just
the fuck out of there.
free-spirited, they're, little creatures.
So if you're showing the property to someone and this is the situation, how do you deal with that?
It's a really good question. I mean, listen, I'm in the people business and people do people things. So you do your best with what you got, right? I have a process where I want everyone to feel comfortable, and I explain to these nice girls, I'm like, this is how showings are going to go, but can we do something about these rats? They're kind of we'll just put a sheet over it.
Well, I think I'm about to buy this property for cheap.
I
when
go,
think
well,
about
I
that.
go,
I'm all right,
yeah, right?
this is a
I
good
go
deal
there.
now. I'd rather see some rats when I'm looking for a good deal, truthfully.
I go
You're
there.
bringing your own rats, in your pocket. Dropping off rats.
Well, they put this sheet over it, but you just see the tails out of it. I'm like, this is fucking disgusting. I no, what? But it didn't really matter because at the end of the day, you got to know the product that you have and how to sell it, right? Every property, every every intricacy has a story, and I just had to tell the right story. And that story was, how is this going to be a really great either house for a primary owner or a really solid investment with current tenants in it? Who cares if they like rats? Who cares?
So what's your strategy for a client? They come in and they see that. How do you get them to overlook that? If they're an investor or something for a primary?
It's such a good question. I mean, I try to get very clear on what the goals of my client are, right? So that they're walking into a property and they're focusing on what's important to them. I'm like, wait, so you don't care as long as this makes money, right? You don't care as long as this is going to help you offset your tax basis here.
Knowing the numbers.
Care.
Yeah, just pitch in the numbers. Look, he's there to buy a property. He's there to make some money. Whether they're buying a primary or they're buying an investment property, people look to make a good deal, and you have to know how to pitch the good deal. And when you know your numbers, I feel like you could pretty much sell anything.
And then there's also two ways to look at a property, right? It's going to either be cash flowing right now, or it's going to be an asset later on, right? Like 5% appreciation is very common in the Philly market. In certain areas, it's a little more, it's a little less, depending on where you are. Maybe they're knocking that house down. And they don't, like, the shittier it is, the better.
Okay, cool. So let's say, and Mark, this is for you. Let's say I'm a business owner. I have run a martial arts school or another business. I have $100K in cash. I'm like, okay, cool. I want to grow this money, but I want to do it through real estate, right? Yep. Most people are intimidated by real estate, right? Because there's so much paperwork, so many things that can go wrong. There's so many steps. So I have $100K in my bank account. I want to grow it through real estate. What's the first thing I do?
So the first thing you do, you're talking like you just own a business, you don't know anything about real estate right now? Or
maybe you rent your building.
Yeah.
You understand the idea of like buy low, sell high, or like a rental property. You understand the basics.
Got it.
But what do you actually do? Do you find an agent first? Do you find an area you want to buy in? Like what happens?
I mean, the first thing is find an expert, like find someone that's in the field that knows what they do. And I always say, find someone full time. It's nice you have a cousin, Sally, that sells real estate, but I live and breathe it. This is what I do every day. And my business model is truthfully make people money. So like if it was you, for example, to find me, like I would come, we would talk, we would sit down, I'd find out exactly like how much money you have to play with, what do you really want to invest? And sometimes it might be less than what you think you have to invest. And that's usually the case. Usually everyone thinks they need to spend a lot more money on real estate to buy it than they actually do. But find an expert is definitely step one, because then you could talk shop about anything. Hey, what about this location? What about this location? What about this multi-unit? What about this single family? And then you could kind of gauge their risk, so to speak, of like what they really are looking for. A lot of people are scared to be landlords. And then they realize like once you get a tenant in there and it starts flowing, like, with my properties, look, I have great tenants. Like I love being a landlord. I love my interactions with my tenants. They have a problem, I'm on top of it. And once I bought one, I couldn't stop at buying another one. And I went from another one.
So how do you find, so you said, okay, you don't want to use your cousin Sally, who maybe has her license, she got 10 years ago.
Well, I'm not saying not to use cousin Sally. I'm just saying, if
maybe it's not full-time, maybe not the person you want, because you're not going to be as ingrained in the market and what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different in martial arts, right? You could hire someone who does that full-time or hire your uncle who knows a little bit.
I was just going to say the same thing too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how do you find someone? Like, do you Google search? You go to Zillow? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, if you have someone like a friend that bought real estate, you could see if they had a good experience with a realtor. But I'm a numbers person. I like to see that they're selling real estate. They know what they're doing. They live and breathe it. They do it full time. Like it's the same way if I went to an accountant. I don't want an accountant that does it very seldomly. He's doing accounting once in a while. I want someone that like this is their business, So I guess when you're looking up a property, you could look up an agent. Zillow right away. You could see how many deals someone's done in the last year. You could even see where they're selling their deals. So that's how you would find an agent, truthfully, or like visit an open house. If you have a good rapport with somebody and you're talking with them, like a lot of times, and I don't sit open houses as much as I should. I'm gonna get back into it though. But just schmoozing and talking. If you have a good vibe with someone and you think like you could trust them and what they say is sounds like real, that's the best way. Is like if you want good energy with someone, you want to make showing houses fun. You don't want to have someone that's boring showing you houses as well. Takes the stress out of it as well. Like people like hanging out with me and going to see houses and finding properties,
So if you're a first-time investor, you have $100K, you find a good agent, all right, I like this person. Do you suggest usually they go in, if they're a business owner, do they go into commercial or residential or multi-unit? How do you figure out what's the right next path for them?
It's really what they really want, Listen, I'll buy whatever if it's a good deal. Do you know what I mean? And if it's a business owner, I think that they have the same mindset. Their goal is to to make more profits, to use their money to make more profits. So if this commercial building, let's say it was a commercial and 2 residential units up top, if it's making money and it sounds like a good deal and you have a good long-term tenant in the bottom, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the deal.
Okay, cool. So when you're finding a deal for a tenant, like what do you look for? Do you look for like certain cap rate? Like what numbers are you looking for?
It's all about the numbers.
Okay,
It
so
all depends.
Tell me the big numbers you look for, the main ones.
I mean, look, and now it all depends on location. Some people may not want to have an investment property in an up and coming area. They may like having more like steady working clients. So if you're buying in Center City, you're not going to get the same return that you would get buying in Port Richmond, right?
And for people who are outside Philadelphia and don't know those areas, like the downtown area versus something on the outskirts.
Center City versus like a suburb neighborhood 20 minutes outside the city.
Right.
That's still up and coming.
Okay. And then, so usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, people will find it a little bit more, the numbers will be sexier outside the downtown area.
Way sexier.
But obviously you have more risk because you're in a worse area.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely more risk in terms of like, let's say you could get a tenant that doesn't pay, but that's not always the situation. Look, if you vet your tenants and you do credit searches, you look if they have, any delinquencies in payments or they owe a lot of money, if you vet your tenant, like most in my experience, like people don't want to like go to your house and like not pay you. You know what I mean? Like it does happen there's horror stories, but if you do the right research and you trust and you put it like, again, for my clients, like I have a rental agent on my team. She does everything. She'll make sure that, and she rents on my own properties. She makes sure that this is a good tenant. We get their income statements. We get their pay stubs. A lot of times, like we'll even, go to their current residence just to see how they keep the property,
So if you are a business, first of all, it's really smart. I like that idea. And if you are a business owner, okay, you find this property or let's say an agent helps you find a property like you or Steph, and the numbers make sense and you're going to be profitable each month, past expenses, but you're like, I don't want to do all this work. I don't want to be a landlord, right? Like it's just too much work for me. I want to focus on my business.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Well, then you would find a property management. You would find someone that you could manage, that would manage your own property. But I would always say this. If it's your first property, do it yourself the first time. See what you really like. Because you don't know what you don't know. You might realize, like, oh, man, I love having John as a tenant. He's great, takes care of the place, calls me if he needs anything. Or he doesn't call me, which is the best. Right. I don't want my tenants calling me. I don't mind when they call me, but it's better not to hear from them, because then everything's good.
Yeah. One of the things I added to my lease that someone brought up to me, which when I was doing the managing, now I have a management company because I hate getting calls. So I have student properties and students are dumb and when they're young, they just have no experience, right? So get calls for the dumbest things. And one of the things I added to my lease was like, if there's like any sort of leak, they like have to call me within like 24 hours or something like that. Otherwise, I don't want them to think, oh, they can't bother me or they don't want to bother me. Yeah. I'm like, no, because that's going to create a way bigger issue and way bigger expenses for me. All right. So you have the property, you find a management company. What do management companies usually charge? How much is that? How much?
Again, it depends how much properties you own. If you're giving them one, they're going to want to see like 8 to 10%. Truthfully, you could get someone for 6.
Is that usually worth it? You think, like cutting into your profits, or it just depends how your profit margins?
You know what?
Peace of mind.
Yeah, it's peace of mind, but also, I'm just going to speak for experience for my properties that I have. I love cash flow. Like Kevin Leary and O'Leary, whatever his name was on Shark Tank. Cash flow. Like I love making profit off my properties, but my real goal is in 30 years from now. So, because everyone thinks when you buy one property, like you're going to get rich off one property. You don't make that much money. If you put 20% down, let's say you put 20% down on a $200,000 house, after insurance, taxes, whatever, your mortgage is probably like $1,350, $1,400. And this is an exact example. We're buying one in Port Richmond right now. We just got it rented for $1,800. It's $400 a month. 4, 8, 12. What is that? It's like $4,800 a year. All expenses are out now. Profit is like $5,000. $4,800. So it's like that's great. Listen, $5,000 doesn't change your life, but when you own 20 of them, it would.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's so that's also a misconception. Everyone thinks like, 'cause listen, even you own 3 properties, you're not making that much extra money. But like somebody said, when the management company comes in and they're taking away your profits, maybe I don't mind so much because let's say, look, you're 32, right?
31.
31.
baby.
In 30 years from now, if you started buying all these properties now, they're all paid off, you know? And that's when you really start making money, when your mortgage is off of it. And this real estate takes some time, but, you know, in the long term, in the long run, that's how you get rich.
Yeah.
There's also opportunity too, which sometimes I forget about. Conservatively, when you're running numbers, you want to run them for what you think you're going to get conservatively for rent. But there is an opportunity to increase the rent every year. And let's not forget about appreciation, right? So you don't have to hang on to a property for 30 years. Like, one of the biggest reasons why people call me, like I have a handful of doctors and lawyers, and they're like, look, I want to buy a place. My kid is 12. I'm thinking it's going to pay for college. And they do, and they cash out. And that's a really great way to fund a life. So you don't have to hang on to it for 30 years for it to also help you get to your goal. It takes being strategic and figuring out what you want. But
yeah, that's also true.
I think personally, I'm a little more boring. I'd rather just like hold on to it and just build a portfolio.
I hold on to it. Yeah, that's how I am.
Yeah, I think of a big portfolio, right? I'm going to build over time, buy 1 to 2 properties a year over the course of 10 to 20 years, and I'll have 50 to 100 properties, and then I'm in a good spot. Right?
Yeah.
You know, another thing, so this is what I own. I don't own any, I own my primary residence, but I own land.
Why do you do land?
Well, truthfully, I didn't really understand like the concept of being a landlord, figuring out the deal. But here's what I did know. And I bought it like 5 or 6 years ago. I did know this, that I liked the area of Philly that I was working in Grays Ferry at the time. And I liked what was going on in the neighborhood. And I was working with a lot of builders that were holding on to land. I was like, well, if you're doing it, I'm going to do it. So sometimes like we overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be this like crazy process where you're reading all these books. Like what's Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Like I didn't read that book. Probably should. Gonna add it to my list. But you know, it's like the same thing as like stocks and businesses. Like invest in what you know. I just knew that.
Yeah.
I understood. I liked the land. I liked the location, and I liked what I knew eventually was going to be coming to that area.
And I think that's kind of how I got my rental properties near the universities, because I knew you. I knew you were a hustler. I knew the area. Yeah. And I was comfortable with it. And like that is what, you know, helped me dip my toe into the pool and feel more comfortable.
For sure.
You know, then eventually I, bought a commercial property, right? And hope to buy more residential as we move forward. But it's always like, okay, I know someone, I trust them, they're a hustler, they're going to help me make the numbers make sense. But it's one thing is people overlook is like they have an idea. And you mentioned this to me earlier, Steph, is that like everyone wants to be an investor, but then when they actually like have to do something, like they're like, they think they're going to get rich overnight, or like, oh, find a property, I'm going to be, mortgage going to be $1,000 a month, I want to cash flow 5,000. Right?
Sorry, I'm just going to say this.
Yeah, say it.
Sorry for offending anybody, but like a lot of people come to me like, oh, I just want to get so rich off real estate. I just want to be this guy. And I'm like, you know, you do know you're asking us to find you a winning lottery ticket. Like, one, we're probably going to buy it. Or two, like, my winning lottery ticket is different than yours. It takes time. It takes a strategy. There's so many ways you can be successful, not just, you know, in business, but like in life too, right? Everybody has a different definition of success. And just because it works for one person, like Mark, you're cash flowing properties, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at different things, different types of properties. Yeah, I don't know. That was my point.
So don't come to you for winning a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah, no, right. But also like get clear about what that winning lottery ticket is to you, because the question is, if we found it, would you even know what it looks like? Like, what are we trying to find? I say that to people all the time when we're looking for a house. They come to me like, well, I really want to buy a house. I'm like, great. Tell me about your dream home. Because if you don't know what that looks like, I mean, forget about real estate. You don't know what like the definition of success and happiness look like for you. I'm not trying to get this into like, you know, a whole conversation about life, but still you have to know what it looks like, because if you don't know what it looks like, how are you going to know when you find it? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Cause like even in martial arts, when people come in to our schools, we don't say like, oh, here's our classes, here's our prices, do you want to join? It's like, what's your goal here? Okay, got it. Why is that goal important to you? Okay, you want your child to develop focus or confidence or respect, or you, Steph,
I have a personal story.
Yeah, tell us your personal story.
How deep we want to go.
How deep you want to go.
So I started taking karate with Jackie, who is awesome, but I wanted...
Wait, give the background. About how we met, how that happened.
Well, we met at a really hilarious Jewish real estate event.
Yeah.
No, well, it was just like a Jewish event.
Yeah, at a party. Thing. Yeah.
Fine, and scratch that. At a party, and I was, I don't know, I was telling you, somebody came, my friend Maddie was like, oh, you do what? Well, my friend Steph wants to take some self-defense classes.
Yeah.
So then I started to take personal self-defense classes with this badass instructor, female, which I thought was really cool. And she taught me how to fuck some people up.
Nice. Wait, so why did you do that?
Well, I started to do that because, one, I wanted to feel in control of myself. And I don't think, this is going off on a tangent, but I don't think people truly understand how interesting and the kind of risk that us agents, sorry, mama, I'm safe. I will let you follow me on Find My Friends, but how risky some of the things we really do are, right? Like, we are the only people in the world who take a phone call from a stranger, get dressed up, and meet them at a property alone. Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. And I also, I mean, I don't do that. I have a process for that now, but you never really know. You don't know who you're meeting sometimes. I'm also an avid runner.
But when you start, you're definitely doing that.
Well, absolutely.
You know?
And like open houses, right? Like I just had this conversation with another agent. I don't care if you're male, female, you're 21, you're 60. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like people do people things. And
I've had a scary experience at open house before.
So we have to be prepared. I'm also a big runner. I like to run early in the morning. You just never know. So you always have to be. And I'm not like interested in living my life in fear. So the only thing I knew I could control was myself and how I show up in certain situations, and having control and being empowered of my body, and gave me a lot of that.
Cool. So how do you, so you took the self-defense classes.
Yeah.
How long did you do it for?
2 months.
2 months. Cool. And do like private lessons with
private lessons.
My friend Jackie.
It's invaluable for anybody that's listening to this. If you're thinking about it, just do it. Just do it. You want a good recommendation? Ask Matt.
Awesome. And so besides that part, what else do you do to protect yourself? You're running an open house or you're meeting someone. Like, what do you do?
Well, listen, you just have to be smart, right? So I do carry mace with me.
It's when I first got into real estate, I was actually doing an open house on Race Street, like 2nd and Race. It was actually... it was Kate Vale's listing. Shout out to Kate Vale if you're listening. But
great agent.
I was doing the open house. And look, people come in and out of open house. Do you know what I mean? And like, this was like a very good location. So it was like somewhat busy, but at the end it died down. And there was just this strange guy just in the house, like for a very long time by himself. You know, and this, like, he didn't give me the vibe like he was a buyer. And like, I felt, I feel people out like, hey, how you doing? Like, how'd you hear about the open house? He was just so strange. And I remember like, thank God. And, I had like a nice watch on me or whatever. And I was like, oh God, like, is this really about to happen? And I'm like thinking, do I abandon the property?
Abort.
Like, sorry, sellers, I can't, it's not my listing.
This guy was giving me a bad vibe. I had to go.
It's not my listing. Kate, so you gotta come here. But no, he gave me a bad vibe. And thank God a family came in at the very end when he was just like standing like downstairs, but just being so awkward. And I almost felt he was like ready to do something or like pull something out. But luckily a family came in and he left.
So nothing happened. It's just
nothing
actually quite a bad.
Oh yeah, but it was like, it was a vibe where you just know something's gonna happen. Like he was very, very awkward. But listen, I've been in crazy properties where like, if it's like an investment property, let's say, not in the greatest area, I've seen like booby traps. Like, set there. I swear to God, I saw one who was going up the stairs, and the thing it was like a rake. And seriously, if you set the trap off, like we saw the wire.
So you tried to sell like the Saw house. Like,
pretty much, dude. Yeah. I've seen some crazy stuff.
So what do you do if you see that?
Again, to real estate, it's very great. Trust me.
So what do you do if you see that kind of thing? How do you handle it? Do you just like walk out? Like, I'm not dealing with this shit?
You call the listing agent and you let them know, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, like, have you been to the property? Like, obviously, like, someone, like, went in and, like, created some crazy stuff. But what do? You try to get it for cheap. That's what you do. You try to get it for cheap. Look, you got people in here saying booby traps. You're asking 100. I'm giving you 30. Like, I want to get a good deal. Like I said, I love when a house has rats. I love when a house has roaches. Because I know I'm going to come in there and, whoever I'm representing, whether it's me or a client, like, that's what we want. You want to start from scratch anyway. Like, if you're going to rehab a house, do it. Do the rehab. Like, start from scratch, you know?
The common real estate idiom, if that's the right word, is like, you don't make money when you sell it. You make money when you buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I have a pretty funny open house story that you reminded me of.
Wait, can we go back to the other story? Because I feel like we got no detail. You're like, there was pepper spray.
Yeah. What
happened?
You grabbed the pepper spray.
We might not be able to launch all of it.
Whatever you want to say.
Yes. So this was actually another professional in the business. I might be looking at a situation very differently than the other person. And that is something we come across every day, all day long. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and you're like, wait, really? That's what you got out of it? Like, how are we in the same room, having the same conversation, commanding respect, right? Like, if you are looking to hire a real estate agent, do you want one that's going to lay over and be like, okay, whatever you want, I'll be there whenever you want. I'm just like, the bare minimum for a real estate agent is opening a door. Anybody can open a door, but can anybody help you get to your goals? To any agent that's listening to this, or any business owner that's looking to this, like, command your respect, know your shit. And it's okay to say no to anything that doesn't feel authentic to you.
So now that you have some martial arts training under your belt, so what do you do differently now? You speak louder? You stand differently? Do you, like, what do you do?
Well, I have a protocol. It's like, when you leave your house, you're like, I turn off the stove, I turn off, like, whatever. I got my keys, I got my mace, I got my pride, my dignity, I'm good, and you, like, go out the door. I have a protocol, right? If I'm in a certain situation, like the other day, I was filling up gas. It was late at night. It was out in the suburbs, oddly enough. And I'm like assessing the scenario. Like, every time I get out of my car now, I assess the scenario and I'm like, nope, there's some random person in a car. I can't see through it. I'm fucking out of here. Yeah. Right? Like, anytime I go to show a house, the door's open. I'm like, listen, I'm not showing this house. You have to have some parameters for yourself. I mean, that's what makes me feel good. And you just start that conversation with your clients. Look, my job is to protect you. That's it. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you don't like that, I'm not the agent for you.
And I think what you said is dead on. Like, you need to have a protocol. Like, okay, I'm going to stand in this, I'm going to stand maybe like behind the islands. There's like, maybe you're showing a house, right? And you stand like with something in between you and the other person. So like, that's an example, but have an idea of like, okay, if this person does this, then I do that. If this happens, then I do that. If this happens, then I do that. And if I do those things, then I'll be safe, right? Or at least safer than not following those
Sure.
actions.
I mean, listen, I've been doing this for almost 12 years. Like, I'm not showing houses to people I don't know at this point, but sometimes it is interesting. You get like a phone call and they're like, hey, I follow you on Instagram. Like, can you come list my property? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm ready. I'm going to go. And then I'm like, I should think twice about this. What's my protocol,
Sometimes it depends on the location, though.
Well, you're like, I'm like,
well, Graduate Hospital. All right, I'll be there in 2 minutes.
Nice neighborhood. Yeah.
Right? Like, and that is something I really struggle with sometimes. I'm like, how do you know you're safe? And how do we be professional and safe at the same time? And how do I not sound like a lunatic to everybody that's listening to this podcast? Because, well,
look, it happens. Listen, Chelsea on my team, she's some guy, like, they got into talking. I forget where they were at. And, like, he was like, oh, I have a property I want to sell. And I kind of was, like, reviewing, like, the texting. And I was like, ooh, something about this. This guy has ulterior motives. And eventually he did. Yeah. And, like, he didn't really have a house he wanted to sell. He just wanted to talk to her. Yeah. He just wanted, like, to communicate with her and, like, get her to, like, show a property or come hang out or come to his house. And it's, look, it's a lot different being a guy and a girl too in the business, I would say, because this is the only job where, like how you said, someone calls you and you get it, you think money. You're like, oh, like, because that's what it is. Same with karate. Someone comes in and they want to sign up for your class. You're thinking, all right, like, obviously you want to help them. You want to make sure you can figure out their goals. But at the end of the day, it's your living. This is what you do to make money, So it's tough in real estate to somehow, like, to understand, like, what's safe and not safe. So I always tell her, like, yo, you call me. If you're going to, like, an area, like, you call me. You let people know. I'm going to XYZ on 3rd Street. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let people know. But yeah, she's had, like, it happens. It happens, so.
Yeah, you have to have a protocol, For sure. I try to let people, like, I do, follow my friends, my phone. I try to let people, especially because we don't have very predictable schedules, right? Like, my schedule can be, like, all over the place.
It's different every day, almost.
Yeah, it's different every day. And so you have to have, like, a couple of people, you can call and say, like, hey, so, what's the code word? Or, I think I'm going to need you to get me a document. And that's, like, the code word for, like, help. Call 911.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I wish this is a really funny funny conversation about a property. To your point about, like, the shittier the better. But I had these investors coming in from New York that happened to be from the Orthodox Jewish community. And I'd never met them before. And I was working them with a friend of mine. And I was like, 22. I'm like, this is going to be great. Like, I'm going to show them all these places in Manayunk. And I think this was like 2011. So, like, there were deals to be had, let me tell you. And I am like, meeting these men. It was like 4 or 5 men. And I'm like professional and cute and whatever. And trying to like land some of my first deals as a newbie. And we walk into this house in Manioc and it is a fucking disaster. There's trash. My like cute little shoes were like covered in trash. There was trash up to your knees and all the copper had been pulled out of this house. And this was like the first, I did no prep work with these guys. This was like the first property these guys are seeing, thinking exactly what we were talking about. This is a winning lottery ticket. And they wanted to see all these like shitty properties from like Manioc to Norristown. The Norristown one was funny because there was also like a whole siesta going on in this house. But I'm like in Manioc and out of the trash pops out a naked guy. And he's like, hey, I'm Joe. I will never forget this. And I'm like dick out and all. And I'm like, I got these like guys with me. And I'm like, what do we do?
We'll buy it.
What do we do?
Yeah.
Does Joe come with the property? Like,
Wait, he jumped out of the trash?
Literally
out of trash can?
Out of the trash in one of the bedrooms. We like go upstairs.
He was laying in the trash.
Literally laying in the trash. He's like a homeless guy. And I'm like, new. Like, I'm new. I'm like, is this what really selling real estate's like? Because this is not what they were.
I quit. I'm out.
This is not what they were doing on like TV. This just feels really different. My parents are like, how was your day? I was like, well, you're going to love this one. It's like, anyway.
I mean, there's a book, if anyone listening hasn't read it, it's called, or you guys should read it, it's called The Gift of Fear.
Oh.
It's by James Becker. Hopefully I'm not saying his name wrong, but if you Google search Gift of Fear, and it's about what you said. It's like using your intuition and not like ignoring your intuition when someone is coming off weird or like says things that don't really make sense. Like your intuition is always your best self-defense, and not just ignoring it because like you want the job or like, oh, maybe it's like not a big deal. Like if you're on one side of the street and someone's on the same side of the street as you and they make you feel uncomfortable, like cross the other side of the street. Like don't feel like, oh, I don't want to appear like scared, or I don't want to appear racist, or I don't want to hurt that person's feeling. Like, no, just cross the street, right? And that's what the whole book is about. And like it gives all these situations where people were in dangerous situations, and when they looked back at it, there was all these signs telling them what to do, and they ignored it over and over and over again. So use your gift of fear.
You know, Jackie said that my karate instructor said to me the most brilliant thing. She was like, you're going to hurt people's feelings, and that's okay, right? Like, if somebody's too close to me, or either one of you, or somebody's doing something weird, it's okay to be like, get away, you're making me uncomfortable. Or please don't say that to me, that's making me uncomfortable. And if they didn't mean it, like, oh, well. But, like, it's okay to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah. And command the room, like you said earlier. Command the room. Like, when people come into our schools and we teach our staff, we always say, hey, when you own the room, like you're the doctor of the room. You don't let other people decide what they want to do, right? Like if I'm talking to someone or I'm teaching a kid and the parent's there, I don't let them go on their cell phone. I'll say, hey, do you mind putting that away? Or I'll say something like that's nice, but command the room and own the room, right? Don't let anyone else own your space, right? One of our mutual friends who runs a jewelry store, do you see the video he posted of some guy screaming at him?
Oh, yeah.
It was super good. So I asked him, so he has a jewelry store, so people come in and they try to sell him
It's jewelry. A pawn shop. It's a pawn shop, like watch shop. GNS Diamond, shout out, Austin.
Yeah, so at his pawn shop, as you can imagine, people come in, they try to sell stuff, but sometimes people try to sell him fake or stolen crap. Right? And he could lose his license for buying something that's stolen. And obviously he could lose a lot of money if you buy something that's fake. And this guy just wanted him to buy something like really quickly and was like screaming at him. And he's like, yeah, listen, I know that stuff is stolen. I'm not buying it. You know, he didn't say that to the guy because like then that causes like it elevates the whole thing.
Sure.
But he just like knew.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, how do you handle that situation? He's like, well, I used to apologize. I'd be like, try to calm the situation. Now I just hold up for myself and say, hey, you're in my store. If you don't like it, you can leave, and that's totally okay with me. But you don't have to be here. And he's like, you have to talk to them, like get right back at them and command the room and command respect. If you don't, they'll run all over you and not apologize, right? So for self-defense and just owning any real estate situation, I think that's important.
And it's also just in business.
Yeah.
Yeah. This goes back to the basics, you know, that I start with all my clients. It's like, what are your goals? How do you know what it looks like when you see it, or so that you can identify it? And like being a master of your craft, knowing what it is that you have so you can have those unapologetic moments.
So, Marc, I want to bounce back to you. We talked about before what to do. You have $100K, you find a good agent, they make sure to help you make a professional, correct decision for what your goals are. So what are some mistakes people make? Like when people come in, they have money and they end up losing money, like what are the mistakes they usually make?
you know, I mean, to me, the biggest mistake they make is putting their trust in the wrong person. You know, it all comes down to just what we said before. It's like, not when you sell, it's when you buy. Putting your trust in the wrong contractor. You know, I've seen, you know, said you wanted some horror stories. I had a client, trusted the contractor, gave him money up front, a lot of money, way more money than you should give a contractor up front.
How much money are we talking?
Over $100,000.
Okay.
And normally you want to pay them out based off they did the work.
In increments.
Increments. Like, hey, if it's going to cost you $120,000 in rehab, you know, maybe give them 20 up front, go check up on the work. And the biggest mistake they do is like, I'm in a good position. I trust my partner, Andrew. That's my guy. I know I don't need to go to the property, right? But other people, like, you know, the 100K, what the mistakes they'll make is just like thinking that just because they hired this person, that they're going to do it, that they're going to do the work. They're going to do it on time. You know, it's like, just when we were talking about command the room, it's your property. You got to command your property. You got to go check up. Hey, it's been a month. Nothing's happened. What is going on? I gave you $20,000. This client ended up giving this contractor over $100,000 to do the work. Just did very minimal work. And he would come and check up on it, and he would always make an excuse, and he would let the contractor make excuses. And just and went on for a couple months. Guy disappeared with his money.
Why are contractors so notorious for like scamming people?
Listen, it's because it's the easiest gig to scam somebody, truthfully. That's how I really believe, because nobody knows the numbers. Nobody knows the numbers, you know? And I pride myself on knowing the numbers. I still don't know the numbers. I'll be arguing with my business partner, Andrew, like, how the hell is the floors going to cost this much? Or like, this is not the third. But he's in it. This is what he does. Like, he's like, no, like, this is the numbers. Look at it. It's so easy because you could get a job, like on a roof. Let's say it's a roof. Go do a roof. It's going to cost $3,500, $4,000 in the city. And that's very common. Just in the burbs, way more, right? Depends what type of roof as well. But let's say it's $4,000. Listen, I just sold this property in Grays Ferry, actually. And she's in Israel, this client. She like needed a roofer, and she like called some guy, and he quoted her $10,000. And I sent her my guy quoted her $3,000. So it's just like, it's so easy when no one knows the numbers to like say like, this is going to cost X, this is going to cost this. Or they walk into a house. The best part of what contractors will do is, or sometimes they'll give you a low number, and they know that it's not going to be this. $70,000 to rehab the house. So it costs $110,000. What happens when the 70 is up? They go back to them because now they need to finish it. Now they have to have the job. Now they don't want to have to find another contractor.
They're desperate.
So now they're desperate. Like, okay, fine. Like, what do we need? Like, what happened here? And they can't really do anything. It's like no real recourse. That's why like you have to trust. You have to have quality people. You know, that's why it goes back to finding a good realtor. Find a good realtor that has good contractors that if, God forbid, if you don't have them, they could hook you up, an electrician, a plumber, a roofer, you know, whatever you need. A guy that does floors, you know. So that's why are they notorious for it? Just because it's just made up numbers. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah, and it's intimidating if you have no idea what you're.
And labor's different. Labor cost is different, right? Like every contractor has different labor cost. So it's like the same house. You could take two separate builders. One could tell you $100,000. One could tell you $80,000.
Right.
The materials generally are the same price. Materials are always generally the same price. You know, then it all comes back to the labor. But contractors are notorious for it.
Well, one thing I like to do is like, and I think a lot of people make this mistake, tell me if I'm wrong, is they'll just get one contractor and be like, all right, like I like them, we'll do it. And they should get like multiple quotes.
Listen, it's the same way you should, you know, maybe talk to a couple realtors sometimes if you're really going to, you know, if you're going to list your home and you don't know any realtor. And it's funny because the stat is actually, and Steph, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like 80% of the time they'll work with the first realtor they ever meet, you know? And I almost feel it's the same way with contractors. Like they met this contractor and for some odd reason they won't get other quotes from multiple people, because that's how you could really tell if someone's bullshit or not. You know, if you get 3 or 4 different quotes and 2 of them are this and the other 2 are that, like, you know, but then it's also confusing as well. Like, who is the, like, what's going on? Like, is this guy just doing cheap work?
Right.
You know, and it's just.
Yeah, I like to, anytime I'm going to hire someone, if I can, whether it's or even just like get a new tenant or something like that. I always like to invite multiple people at the same time so they compete, right? So like, let's say, and this works so well, like for renting properties, I almost never do a showing unless I have multiple people from different places, because every time I have like multiple people who are checking out together, they're always competitive.
Yep.
They'll be rented the next day. But if I have to, for some reason, show one person, it's like, oh, maybe. And it kind of takes forever and tails off. And same thing with contractors. I'm going to say, hey, I don't tell them in advance, right? But I'll say, like, hey, like, I'm free Tuesday at 2. Have 3 different contractors. Or I'll call 5. 5 will say they're coming. 2 or 3 will show up, right? And then they'll be like, oh, who's this other guy? Oh, okay, getting quotes from other people. And, like, you see they're almost, like, offended in their head. But I don't give a shit. Like, now they're going to give me a competitive rate, and they know they can't just bullshit me, right?
That's what I do when I sell properties.
What
Get a bunch of buyers there at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, as soon as people think competition, people get competitive.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want the house. This guy can't have the house. I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all competitive. You're competitive.
Listen, in business, you have to be competitive. That's how I feel. In sales, especially in real estate, you have to have I have a good competitive though. I love that I wish every realtor could come in and just make $1 million. You know what I mean? I really do. I mean, there's enough business out there where people can, but only 5, I think, and correct. And Steph knows the numbers better than me. I feel like, or these little stats. Like, I think only 10% or 5% of realtors make 90% of the money.
So right now, 10% of agents are doing 90% of the business.
I think that's probably most business.
It's usually
general.
80-20.
No, I'm sure martial arts is the same.
Yeah.
Like other businesses are the same.
Yeah.
Like usually the top performers do most.
Yeah.
It's kind of like 10% of your clients give you 10% of your clients give you 90% of your problems. Right. And it's usually the ones who are making you the least amount of money. Right,
Always.
not the ones that are doing the best. The one that comes in and wants a $1.4 million home is going to be way easier than someone who wants to buy a $160,000 house in the hood.
Oh, man.
Right? Depends. Not always, but sometimes. But also like different issues. Right?
Different issues, but you're pretty spot on with that, though. But good competitive. Back to being competitive. It's good to be competitive as long as it's not jealousy. Jealousy's not good, but being competitive is good.
Yeah, totally. I'm very competitive in terms of okay, this person owns this high rise downtown. Why can't I own that high rise?
Yeah.
Is this person way smarter than me? Are they way better looking? Are they way charismatic? They're probably about the same. What do they do differently than me? Why can't I own that building? Yeah. But obviously you can't let it
No, it inspires me when someone does more than me.
Yeah.
Listen, in real estate,
inspire me. You guys both inspire me. I'm a fighting. First of all, you run like a champion. Steph is I think she ran 7 miles this morning before she even got here.
Yes.
Yeah, I walked to the bathroom twice.
I just laid in bed working on my phone for 2 hours, just banging out a bunch of deals. So Steph, jealous.
Steph, very jealous. And then Mark, whenever I see you on your top lists of KW sales, someone was obviously I don't work in real estate, but I'm always like, damn, okay, I gotta make more money than Mark. Fuck him.
Yeah, but good competitive.
Yeah,
for sure. But dude, you inspire me too, man. Yeah, for sure. For real, you do inspire me.
Appreciate
and
that.
also, you bought a property before me. You owned houses well before me. I think 3 before I ever owned one. So. But it's good competitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what it goes back to. It's inspiring to see someone that's doing what you think you can do and what you want to do. And that's what I know you said top of the list, but I don't even like being on the top of the list. I need someone that I could keep. Oh shit!
Absolutely.
This guy is selling more than me. How do I sell as much as Mike McCann? How do I sell as much as Jim Onesti? What do I need to do?
Yeah. If you make the most money in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. I have a couple of different takes on this because I also am a highly competitive person. I'm a highly motivated person. And I think for the last couple of years, I played this comparison game, right? We're talking about, right? Someone's selling more houses than me, or somebody won an award, or someone's doing this. And comparison is a thief of all joy. It just really is.
Yeah, that is also
true. I
true.
really started to ask myself, I had this amazing business coach, Matt Bennett, is unreal. And we got really clear, and he was like, what's your word of the year? What are you gonna use as a guiding word for yourself? And it's authentic. And I just I'm letting go of all the comparison, because at the end of the day, what happens when you get there? Then what, right? For me at least. And my word this year is just to be very genuinely authentic in every single thing that I do. I'm working on it in this moment, saying the things that are authentic, but I don't want to make more money than you guys. I don't think I care.
Yeah.
I just want to know that I'm showing up and I'm helping people, and that I also, my definition of success is knowing that I can get my workouts in, give really good value to people,
For sure.
solve problems.
Yeah.
Hopefully this
Well, I
year
don't want to say the
take a
competitiveness
vacation.
for me is more about making more money. Me, it's more just inspiring. They're at a certain plateau that I feel if someone that I feel I could do
100%.
and still still live the life that I live. That's what I want to do.
that's it.
I don't ever want to change. I love my life right now. Truthfully, I real estate's the best. If you could make real estate work as a real estate agent and get involved in real estate, I think there's no better job. That's my
Second best
personal
job.
opinion. Behind karate.
Yeah.
Karate number 1, real estate number 2. But I also don't want to change my lifestyle. So that's when I see these guys and I see their lifestyle and I'm like, oh well, you know what?
I could do that.
They're selling a lot more real estate than me, but they still live a great life. You know,
Yeah,
still with
exactly.
his family, still with his kids. Like, you know, as long as it doesn't interfere with like your happiness, like going to what you said. But
Yeah. I mean, you guys are, God, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, damn, these guys are crushing it. And I'm like, yeah, but I am too, in my own
Yeah,
way.
you're a beast.
That's authentic to me.
I
But
used to
don't-
look up to you when I first got into real estate.
Oh,
Steph, you're
well,
a
I
beast.
was
You've
your
been a beast
mentor.
for 8 years ago, you know, when I think when we met, you know. I was like, damn, I need to sell as much real estate as Steph. How does she do it? She's cool as shit. Like, what do I need to do? Like,
Thanks.
you know, and I've learned from you, and I took tidbits
here.
from everybody when I first started in real estate. But yeah.
It's funny because
You're a rock star.
martial arts specifically in our industry,
Yeah.
people are super competitive and they'll just make up reasons. I'm sure this happens in other businesses of why that other person is successful. Oh, they're in a better neighborhood. Oh, they have better people.
Yeah.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
I mean, they invent all these reasons, and it's like, and what good people do, like high performers, is they go up to that person, hey man, what are you doing like differently than me? Like, how can I
100%.
learn from you? Right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't just make up excuses.
Yeah.
They
But not only
find
making
reasons.
excuses, I feel, you know, it's so funny because you could tell someone, look, I could sit down with someone right now and say, this is how I started in real estate. This is how I started selling 20 million a year. And I could give them the whole picture. Not everyone's in it. I could tell to 100 people, maybe one would do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Most people
So
don't.
I feel like my true key is like, I love helping people and I want to help people grow. And I think that's how you grow, truthfully. Like my business never took off until I was ready to start. When agents were asking me in the beginning, all my secrets. I have my real estate secrets. How am I finding deals? What am I doing? I wouldn't tell anybody. Now I'll tell anybody. Ask me what I'm doing. I'll tell you right now exactly. This is what I use for my CRM. This is what I'm using to find deals. This is what I'm using to pull numbers. This is, you know, and I'll tell somebody. They won't do it.
Yeah.
Because not everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
And not that they want to do it. It's just people always have like the dream. So I feel like when you finally are at that stage, like what you're doing with the podcast, I think it's great that you're helping people,
Yeah.
like other karate owners, like, hey, like this is how you're going to take your business from a C level to a B level to an A level to now you own 5 karate shops, studios,
Karate schools, yeah.
karate schools.
Yeah,
All right,
dojos, yeah.
But like, yeah, so it's just like, you know, really when you start teaching people, that's when you start like really growing, because it also reminds you when someone's asking you a question and you're teaching and you're telling them, you're like, shit, I haven't done this in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I need okay, got to go back to this.
Oh, yeah.
So I love helping people. I love when someone asking me questions like Chelsea or Mitch when they call me and they don't call me enough. But, you know, I love when they come to me with something because they always remind me of like when I first started and what made me successful. And I go back to my roots a lot.
Yeah.
So I think just teaching people is like really like how you take
Yeah,
off.
it's funny. I'll teach someone, you're like, oh, yeah, I used to do that. Why did I stop doing
Why
that?
did I
There's
stop
like
doing it?
no reason you stopped
Why
doing
did
it.
I
It
stop
just
doing?
fell
Why did I
off.
stop door knocking? I used to do. Listen, I mean, I still do it, but like I used to door knock. And Steph knows that was how I created my whole business. Everyone, you know, I used to go every day just knocking on doors, introducing myself, because I always felt if I see someone face to face, and I'm sure you feel the same way at the karate studio, it's different. Like once you could get them face to face and you could talk to someone and you're going to teach them about karate, like I feel the same way in real estate. Once they talk to me, I feel like I have them.
Yeah.
Like, and I have them forever.
That's how I got Steph. Like once she started talking to me, I'm like, she's hooked in.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. So like, you know, going back to door knocking, like, and that's this year, you know, I'm just calling it into fruition now. Like I'm going back to the basics this year.
That's great.
You know, I want to go back to the exact basics, what I started, because now I have my business and I, you know, it's funny, this realtor called me, it's a broker or whatever, and it's like I was doing some interviews recently and he was like, oh man, you're selling 20 million, you must be so busy. And I thought to myself, I'm not busy enough. Like if this guy's thinking I'm so busy, I'm laying on my couch right now drinking a beer. I swear to God, I was on my couch drinking a beer. He's like, you must be so busy. I'm happy I got you on the phone. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and I'm thinking, so it's like that's why like I gotta, you know, it's just inspiring. Even being in here inspired me to like,
too.
I want me to go home and do some shit. You know what I mean? Like that's how I really feel.
We're amped.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. And like, it's funny because like I was having this conversation with a friend, and they're like, I want to be more motivated. Like I'm gonna follow more motivational things on Instagram or read this book. And I'm like, listen, motivation helps, but Zig Ziglar, you guys ever hear Zig
Yeah,
Ziglar?
of course.
He always talks about
Know all those
motivation
guys.
is like showering. Like it's cool, but you got to do it like every day. And it's
Yeah.
not like, and what you really need is discipline, right?
Yes.
Because like motivation means like nothing. Like there's weeks
Yeah.
like, you know, like you guys know this, like personally, like, you know, I broke up in a relationship I was in for a long time. There was like an 8-week period. I'm like just getting out of it where I wasn't motivated at all. Like
Yeah.
zero.
Tell me about it,
Like,
yeah.
I don't give an F like about what have my business, like personally. But there's still like things that are happening that are just like inertia from discipline. And like I'll be even even though it's tough, like I'll be at a way better place afterwards because I have that discipline. You don't need motivation, you need discipline. And discipline.
Yeah.
Motivation comes from like accomplishments, right? Like you're not gonna like get motivation and then become successful. Like no, like you list your first property, you sell a property, and then you make money. Oh, that's motivating. And then you do it again. Oh, and that's motivating, right? The accomplishments is where the motivation comes from. The motivation doesn't create accomplishments.
You know, have you ever heard of Mel Robbins? Oh, I'm giving you a nugget.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Who wrote this book called The 5-Second Rule. And it's basically like
The blonde lady?
the blonde lady.
Yeah, I know
with
who
the
you're talking about.
glasses.
Yeah.
What's her name? Say it again.
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins. Okay. Tony Robbins' sister or no?
No relation. I never thought of that. But she goes in
Maybe,
to talk
actually.
about this exact thing, you know, like nobody's ever going to feel like doing the hard shit.
Yeah.
The only thing that you're going to be able to do is recognize that it sucks and do it anyway. So I love what you just said about like, it's just inertia from discipline. And that's like, you get enough good routines, like Marc, back to the basics.
Yeah,
Me
back to
with
the
my
basics.
fitness, you starting the podcast. You just get enough of it that it just becomes part of your routine. But let's be honest, it never feels any better. Like over time, you get confidence from doing it. But there are going to be those days where you're like, this feels like shit. And we usually make decisions based off of how we feel. And discipline is what gets you through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the nugget
So
from.
how do you stay disciplined in real estate investing if you're a business owner?
Well, I mean, I think it's having a process, right? First, you have to be clear about what you're accomplishing so that you know what deals you're looking at and that you're being really strict and disciplined. And you're like, no, this is what I'm clear on. These are the properties I'm going to go and see. I'm open to X, Y, and Z, getting clear on that. And
Yeah.
then having a really good routine, right? Like you have a process for everything. You have a process for how you communicate with your agent, how you look at properties, how you analyze them, right? If you're analyzing them like 14 different ways, like that's not helpful. And then once they're in, when you get them, what's the plan for that, right? Do you have a process for when you're going to sell it, how you're going to rent it, what are your leases, everything? I mean, Marc probably has more on this, but it's just creating a process. It's no different than like getting up and brushing your teeth every day.
Do you have a resource for people to figure out like what those processes are? Is there a book they should read? Like, how do they figure that out?
I mean, I really think so this is what I did. I surrounded myself with people that are far smarter than me, right? I was extremely financially unorganized before I bought my first house. And I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this because this is my story, but I was fortunate enough to I got a scholarship to play lacrosse at Penn State.
What?
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, I
You're a
graduated.
lax girl?
I'm a lax girl. I was the goalie.
Damn.
So I had horrible financial literacy. Like, love my parents to death. School was never my thing. Sucked in school. And by the time I got into real estate, I was hustling. I was doing really well. I had no debt. And I was like, I literally didn't understand what to do with my money. I was this exact person. I was like, I sell houses. I think I can buy a house. I understood enough of it, but I knew enough that I needed two things. One, not like a financial planner, not like your mom and dad's financial planner, but somebody to say to me, hey, this is a budget. This is a P&L. Start from like ground zero, right? You can't go investing in property if you don't know, like, you can't get to where you want to go if you don't know where you are. And I very quickly realized I don't even know where I was financially. So I got an amazing financial coach. Her name is Lindsay Del Cook. She does everything virtually. She's incredible. And I'm a kick-ass accountant, Candace Graffilia, New Way Accounting. And oddly enough, I met both of these amazing, powerful women online through Instagram from following their content. I thought it was super valuable. And so I encourage people, like, sure, are there books you could read? Yeah. I think Money on the Streets is a really good one. There are a couple other ones that, like, people love Rich Dad Poor Dad. Those are, like, basic concepts. But I think it's, like, you can listen to everybody else, but you're never going to be able to implement anything unless you know where you are and what your goals look like. Talking about your own debt first. Like, if you have credit card debt, should you really be talking about buying a property? If you have student loan debt, should you really be talking about buying a property? Which, by the way, those are the two biggest things right now in our generation that are keeping people from buying houses. So starting with getting financially organized and reaching out, those are the two people that I really liked. Probably could figure out some others, and then consult an agent and go and talk to people who are really successful. You know somebody that's in your network, your sphere. Hey, how did you get successful? How did you buy? Like, you and I have the same goals. How did you buy this? What did you do? Who are your people? And then listen to as much free shit as possible. That's what I try to do. I want to learn about the market.
Yeah.
I listen to every free mortgage thing, every free state of the market. Go dig to, like, Bigger Pockets is a great resource. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, getting really focused too on, like, all right, so you like something in Philly. What real estate things can you attend in Philly? I bet you'd meet a lot of people. If you start networking in the real estate world in Philly, you'd learn a couple of things and you'd probably be connected to people that can help you along your journey here.
Yeah.
It's a very long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. Like, especially successful people, they're happy to help. Like anyone asks me a question, like
100%.
I'm always happy to help. Like it makes me feel good actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Feel value. You know?
And especially now with like Instagram and YouTube, people who are performing extremely high levels are giving away way more free content. I mean, all the nuggets or secrets you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And they never would have happened like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really a thing. But now, like, everything, because that stuff comes back.
It does.
Like tenfold, right? And the other thing you should do is find an agent that is going to bring you to Sixers games. That's what Mark does for me. Should we tell our Sixers game story?
We can tell it a little later.
You want to
do it now? All right.
It's cool, I think.
I mean, yeah, so season ticket holder at the Sixers. Shout out Sixers. Matt bought his second property, I believe. And I messaged my rep, and I'm like, yo, I'm bringing in a big client to the game.
That's definitely not what happened. Is that what happened?
I always say that shit. I'm bringing in a very important person.
Yeah, shit,
I'll be
you're
like
giving away your
I'll be like on
secrets.
a date or something. I have a very important
Yeah,
client.
exactly.
And I can't. His name's Jordan. Shout out Jordan. That was the best rep I've ever had. It's the Warriors when I had like Kevin Durant, Steph. This is the championship.
Warriors
This is the
prime time.
championship Warriors, and
It's a huge game.
they
Very
sit us.
expensive.
They sit us right behind the announcers. You have a waitress. You have everything. I like to party. You know.
Wait, let's go back up because this you're missing some cool stuff.
What are we missing?
Okay, so we're going to the biggest, like,
See, I
the
don't even
coolest
remember.
Sixers game of the
Oh, we're fans of the game.
We're fans
I
of the
forgot.
game.
Yeah.
So Mark, I just buy a house. He's like, yo, I'll bring you this game. Now we're on the court at halftime.
No. Before the game started.
Oh, sorry. Before the game
before
started.
the game
We're
started.
on the court. They give us a
Like
bunch of free
waving.
gear. You know, the cheerleaders like have their arms around us. We're like, and I'm like, hey, like, this is great.
Oh yeah, we didn't know we had the seats yet. We
didn't
just thought we
know.
were fans of the game, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yo, I got you these tickets."
Yeah, and they start walking us down, and we're literally the first row behind the announcers. Like, the announcers.
So
and
all the
there's
players
us.
check in right there.
Yeah,
So cool.
So,
When
like,
they sub in, they're right in
So we
front.
mingled to like Steph Curry. Remember, he was asking me what I was drinking.
You want to say mingled? Is that the right word?
Well, I was yelling at these people,
Okay,
but
Mark had like probably like
I had like 12 drinks. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie. I was
like,
partying hard.
with
Like I was
Jack.
chugging like Jack and Cokes. That's all I
he
was
kept,
doing.
looking, he kept looking at Jack, and I'm like, Mark, like I've had like 4, and I'm like buzzing hard.
I had
okay?
like 12. I
And
was
Mark
going heavy.
keeps, I'm like, Mark, and he was getting doubles, and I'm like, Mark, like, okay, you can keep on drinking, I'm good. And Mark just screams out like, Steph.
No.
What, you didn't scream
I
at
mean,
Steph?
no. I never
I don't
screamed at
know,
Steph. I was screaming at Brett Brown. But anyway, remember, like Steph was like, "What y'all sipping on?"
Yeah,
And I was
you were
like-
screaming
and I
at
was
Steph,
like,
you're
and
saying
no. That wasn't screaming. When I did scream, though, I was screaming at Brett Brown to call a timeout, and then I got kicked out. But it was only like 30 seconds left. And they're like, "All right, sir, you have to leave." And I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
were screaming at
I was like, "Fuck you, Brett Brown."
he was like 15 feet in front of us. Like, it was not far. He could clearly hear what he was saying. But Steph Curry turned, like, while he was checking the game, turned and looked at us.
Yeah, we had a
and
couple
like
things.
tipped his glass. Like, looking at the, he was like, ah.
He asked me, he was like, "What do y'all sipping?" He was like, "Jack, I like Jack."
You know,
And I was like, "Oh,
this
Steph
is
Curry
so
spoke to
cool.
me."
Because to describe this moment for me, like how cool is this experience?
I mean, it's amazing. I'll remember
I think it was
forever.
the best sporting experience that I've ever had at a sporting event. Just because, like, I mean, to be honest, again, shout out Jordan. Where we were sitting, those tickets were probably like, I mean, this was the championship Warriors, and we had Jimmy Butler at the time. Like,
Yeah,
this was like $3-4 grand a ticket.
Yeah,
It was like
absolutely.
$8 grand
So-
in ticket, you know.
So I'm just painting this picture. So you're the professional, you're the client. Man, you must feel like gold in this moment.
Oh, hell yeah.
You
Like,
felt
yeah,
like a-
Mark hooked it up.
Really well taken
Yeah.
care of client.
Absolutely.
This is like such a thing as business owners, whether you own a karate studio or any other business, is like you got to ask yourself, like, how can I make my clients feel really
Make sure you put this in the edit.
Important.
I take care of all my clients.
Yep.
Well, I was thinking, like, after that, you were saying, like, yo, man, this is not going to happen all the time. This is, like, crazy ass thing.
Well,
Set the
just
bar
like-
high. It can
Yeah, set the bar
backfire.
high.
I mean, dude, that was the sickest sporting event I ever had.
But it's all about creating magical moments. for your
Magical
clients,
moments,
Right?
and-
Like, little things they can remember for a really long
Human
time.
moments,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Human
listen,
moments.
and you know, it's so funny because if you do the little things, things come back good. I sold this guy a house 5 years ago. He called me the other day, graduate house, but we got it for a steal. We got it for like 300 grand. It's probably worth like 5 now, right? I invited him to my Eagles tailgate. Remember I had the Eagles tailgate?
Yeah,
It was sick.
yeah.
I had the
Also,
whole shebang.
Cancel it this year.
I had to cancel it. It rained, but like, you know, I had like I threw an Eagles tailgate. You know, I had a chef, an RV, like an
Open bar, it was
actual
bathroom,
bartender.
like,
There was
amazing.
like bathroom. To the nines. I did it to the nines. I invited all my clients. I reached out to this guy, and I haven't spoke to him in a while. And
invited. This
you
is
were
awkward.
here.
Steph
Listen,
wasn't
it
invited.
was for clients. It was
You
for
were not invited.
clients. It was for clients. Anyway, but if you do, this goes back to doing the right thing in business. Like I reached out to him. I invited him and his kids, and I remember, you know, I look up the name of like.
Good for you.
But I looked him up. I invited him. He texted me the other day. It's like, hey, we're moving to France. We're selling our home.
Yo, tell
and
me
here
about
I am.
this
I'm like,
house.
no, thank you. That's just, I don't want to see you go, but this is sick listening. But just doing the right things in business and like hosting events for your clients and like treating them good, because the biggest business, and I'm sure it's the same for you in karate, you get a lot of referrals. Like, hey, where's your kid going to karate school? Oh, I go to Action Karate. Oh, does he like it? Yeah. You know what? Maybe I'll get my kid to go there. The referral business and just like doing the right things and like making your clients feel valued. Look, I love selling $1 million home. I'm not gonna lie. I make a very handsome commission on something like that. But I make sure that like I don't forget that I made that money. And I like to invest it back in and give them an experience, give you an experience. Because I'm a firm believer that like, if you show someone a good experience, anytime they want to talk, because everybody talks real estate to everybody. Truthfully, everyone does. Oh, how long you been living in this home? It doesn't matter about it. Oh, who is your realtor? I'm looking to buy. Like, oh, Mark's the best. He'll hook you up. You want Sixer tickets? He'll take you to Sixer tickets. Oh, you want to go to a happy hour? You'll go to a happy hour. Whatever it is. It's I'm a chameleon. I find out what my client likes and I'll do it for him.
Yeah, and those are always the best leads too. Like,
listen, not only
refers you,
not only the best leads though, but just making real relationships with people.
Yeah.
Like, listen, Steph said it before. Anybody could open a door. Anybody could write, if they know what they're doing. Anybody could write a contract. It's fairly simple once you learn the contracts. Truthfully, anybody could do it. But making it so it's fun, making it so it's memorable, making it that it's an experience. Like, I always feel that when I'm showing houses to someone, like, and I don't mean this in like a braggadocious way or confident, like I'm confident about it. Like, I know it's fun. Like, I make real estate fun.
Yeah.
And and going back to like a business owner, what they should do, because like I feel like we got away from that topic a little bit, and it's been on my mind.
Yeah.
I think the first thing for a small business owner, let's say it's one of people like watching this and they're getting ready to do something with their money. I think the first one should always be something safe.
Yeah.
It should be something smaller and safer, because the biggest fear that people have when they buy real estate is that they're going to lose money. And I gave you guys an example of what happened about a client that they purchased a property. They purchased it for $220 cash. They rented it for 5 years. It was worth more. I got them an offer for $300 a year later. If you take out what they lost over the 5 years, they made money by renting the property out. They didn't really actually lose. And a lot of people, that's the biggest thing that holds them back. Like, oh, I'm going to lose money. I'm scared.
Yeah.
But fear holds everybody back in anything. Do you know what I mean?
Scared money don't make no money.
Exactly. So I think the first one should be something safe. It should be something small. Like, if you have 100,000, forget it. Hold on to $100,000. I would probably say do something else with it, but or not do something else with it, but like, you don't need to use all of it. You could buy a house, let's say $200,000. You really, 20% down, 40,000 plus closing cost. You need $50,000 to buy this house, maybe 52 if you're really doing the numbers. With $50,000, and I gave you that example, that before of where we're renting it for $1,800, they're making $5,000 off that. At the end net, it's a 10% return. It's pretty good, but it's a safe one. It's something in an up and coming neighborhood. You're going to get a decent tenant. I would, and now look, you said what do they do if they have $150,000 cash? Well, now they still have $100,000 cash, and now they see a property worked. And I'm telling you, once one works, it's addicting. I'm telling you, you buy one, you want two, you want three, you want four.
Like that, the first one's always the scariest,
Yeah.
and then it's like,
and then
it's
you
just
realize
like
how
a
easy
thing
it
you
is.
do. It's like buying. It's like a little.
It's like kissing
buying,
a girl for the first time. It's
Yeah.
it's just scary. It's scary to make out the first time. You know what the hell you're doing, but like, I could use a different analogy there. But the point is, like, it's always scary until you do it, and then you're like, shit, I love kissing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love buying homes now, and now for
I'm
me,
glad I sat next to Mark.
yeah. But yeah, like, once you get over that fear of the first one, and that's why I said do something safe, because then that's why I said in the beginning, like, find out the risk, like, what are they willing to do, and now when it's a safe one, that's how you're going to get these karate owners to buy another one, and in 30 years they'll own. If you buy one a year, if in 30 years you own 30 homes, your family's rich.
Yeah.
Not only you, like, your kids will be rich.
Yeah.
Their kids will be rich.
You're
Like,
changing your family tree.
forever.
Yeah.
Truly forever.
Yeah. And I mean, it's no different than martial arts when people come in. Like, you don't teach them some advanced movement. You teach them like the most basic movement they can possibly do, where they feel confident doing it. And then you build and build and build. So same thing with your investing in real estate. So before we head out of here, is there any other advice you guys want to talk about, or any other topics?
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything. I'm trying to think like what if like a business owner would really help them, but I think like we covered it. I mean, find an expert in your field. Know that how much you want to spend too, because that's the biggest thing. It's like, hey, look, I got 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is. Know how much you're willing to spend, and then that expert will be able to tell you and show you certain scenarios. And from that, I think it's just more just like finding like every deal isn't going to be the best deal. But when you're investing, sometimes deals just make this makes sense. This is safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then once you own a few and you want to get, and now you could get a little bit more risky, but not every deal. That's the biggest problem is that, and not to interrupt you, but like everyone thinks that they have to buy the best deal to invest. Like it has to be the best. It's never going to be that way. There's always going to be a better deal. Just the same way if you're buying a primary home. I have buyers, and Steph knows this. Well, you'll show them a home. They love the home. They want to make an offer. They might even be under contract. And they'll be like, oh, but this home just came up. Oh, this home just came up. I want to see this one. There's always going to be something more. There's always going to be something like, that could have been better. And you just know, like, that'll be your next one. It's...
And the deal can change over time. Like the properties you sold me, they are different now than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Temple,
the neighborhood has changed, right? Like, so I'll give some numbers as an example. So one of them was like 165 or 170. It's in like a rougher neighborhood, but it's near a university, so students rent it out. And then the other one was like, I think 190.
Yeah.
So the mortgages on one of them was like
185.
Yeah. And then one of them I had to put some work in, so whatever. So all in, one of them was like probably 220 because I did maybe 40 grand worth of work, and the other one was like 185, 190 with like had some work to do in the basement. And their mortgages were like, one of them was like, I think maybe $1,100 It was renting for like
Page Street.
no, the other one was like $2,200 I was getting in rent. And the one that was a little better, the mortgage was like $1,200 or $1,300, and I was renting for $3,000 a month. And it was like cash cow, and I'm like, this is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, just maybe it was like $3,200. It's like ridiculous. I'm like, this is amazing. I got to do this over and over again. But the market changes then, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like things
What
happen.
are you renting them out now?
Man, one of them's
What's Page Street? Let's go to Page because that was the best.
that one is like so not terrible. So that'd be $2,600,
And your mortgage is how much?
maybe $1,300.
Yeah.
So still good.
Yeah.
But like that's $600 less a month than I was making before. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a lot of money, but that's still a great deal.
People don't realize this, is that real estate is literally the only asset that you can get insurance on, right? Like it goes up in flames and you have homeowners insurance to cover that asset. But if you invest in the stock market and that crashes, you don't, like, that's a total loss. There's always an opportunity to recoup. Like, even though this story you're telling breaks my heart a little because the market did change, you did well.
Yeah.
You did well. And real estate's also a great hedge on inflation. And there, since the beginning of time, has done really well. Property values don't come down in recessions. So as
There's only more people getting born.
People are always in need of a life change, right? People are getting divorced, people are dying, people are getting married, and people are having kids. And that will never stop. People are always going to need a place to live. Going to have a need for a place to live.
Yeah.
That's that.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming on here today.
Thanks for having us.
If someone wants to contact you, Steph, how do they find you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Steph Ellis Realtor. Very original. You can email me, Stephanie, STEPHNIE.Ellis@compass.com.
Awesome. If you want to be motivated to run too, check out her
Hell
Instagram.
yeah.
And Mark, how do they find you?
They don't find me. I find them.
Sneaky.
All right, cool. Don't say your email on Instagram. Good luck with that. Sounds like a great strategy. What is it, Bennett Real Estate or something?
It is Bennett. It's Bennett_real estate.
Bennett_real estate on Instagram. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Matthew Brenner. If you want to be able to invest in real estate through the profits of your martial arts school and you want advice or help, happy to personally help you. Always point you in the right direction to people who can help. If you want to grow your martial arts school without having to depend on ads, or you want to scale your martial arts program, reach out to me at matthew@wdojo.com and I'll show you how I do it. Thank you guys so much. Bye.